Insperity presents the Small Business Advocate Show with Jim Blasingame, brought to you by FedEx, CareerBuilder.com, and Palo Alto Software. This is a copyrighted production of Small Business Network, Inc., all rights reserved.
Welcome back. 12 after the hour. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. Thanks for being part of my day. I'm Jim Blasingame, and you're listening to the Small Business Advocate Show, and I'm glad you're here. I'm excited about having our good friend John Warrillow back on the show. John's a longtime member of our Brain Trust. He is an entrepreneur extraordinaire and knows a little something about building something and then selling it to somebody else. And that's why when he talks about that topic especially, but as well as others, I listen. His book is called Built to Sell, Turn Your Business into One You Can Sell. And as I said, he knows all about that. In fact, he's conducted a survey on this topic, and we're going to get him to share that with us. John Warrillow, welcome back.
Well, thanks, Jim. It's a pleasure to be back.
It's good to have you back. And by the way, John is a U.S. expatriate living in the south of France, Aix-en-Provence, France, right, John?
That's right. Yep,
You've been over there,
right.
about 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, close on 3 years now. Yep.
Yeah,
it's been a good run for sure.
Yeah, good. So anyway, he's joining us all the way from the south of France. And John, one of the things I talk about on the show is I talk about what I call the ownership time continuum, the small business ownership time continuum from startup to growth to divestiture, and we cover the waterfront and have all these years, 15 years plus. On that topic, and I know when I talk about exiting and all that, a lot of business owners look, they hear that and they say, well, that's really, it sounds weird to them because they can't imagine they've just gotten started with their business or they're growing it and they're excited about it. They can't imagine leaving their business, but one day, head first to feet first, you're going to go out of your business, aren't you?
Yeah, you are. And I see a real divide among age categories on this point. When we talk to people who took the sellability score survey, older business owners, so when I say older, I mean kind of between 60 and 80 years old, they have an idea that a business is something to be passed on to their kids or eventually passed on to employees.
Even if it's a romantic notion, they have that.
They have that, yeah. Whereas the folks that are in their 20s and 30s today, like I think employees, they're thinking built to flip. 5-10 years, build it up, get out, move on to the next business.
Well, but also now those older people, those 60-plus people, when they built their business to start with, they planned on from day one. They planned on keeping it their whole life, probably.
You bet. And the problem is that when acquirers see those business owners and they see someone who's been entrenched, who's maybe their name is on the door, they've been around for 30 years, they worry that business is not worth buying because, in fact, that business is too dependent on the owner.
Right.
That's
a good thing to be concerned about.
Yeah, when we talked to sellability score users, we did a little survey and found out that we compared age groups and the likelihood that they had received an offer. And if you just compare apples to apples, those business owners who are under the age of 32, 26% of our users had an offer, whereas only 12% of those who are over the age of 33 had received an offer. It's one of the biggest, divergences we've seen in the data.
Wow.
For sure.
So clearly, the more a business is aligned with the owner, either personally or in their name, the more difficult it is for people to be interested or to cut a deal. Do you know which one?
Well, to cut a deal, we survey sellability score. We survey actual deals that offers being made.
Uh-huh.
One of the other things we do is measure this thing called hit by a bus test. So you probably talk to your listeners. You probably talk to your listeners about the idea that you've got to be able to survive that test. If you get hit by a bus, does your business continue?
Right.
And among sellability score users, those that could pass the test, 16% had gotten an offer, and only 9% who couldn't pass the test got an offer. So there's just a big variance by can you pass the hit by a bus test?
Well, this is really important. Another thing that I noticed that you in your findings was that a third of the owners expected that a big percentage of their retirement income was going to come when they sold their business.
Yeah, and again, we saw that particularly around the baby boomers, where they're looking at the sale of their company as their big asset to live off for the rest of their lives.
Even though the truth is, the number of small businesses that are actually sold is very small, isn't it?
It is.
It's a lot less than 1/3, isn't it?
It probably is a little bit less than 1/3 compared to the ones that are actually listed versus the ones that actually sell. We also, in the same survey, we talked to our users about, have they received an offer, and if so, at what multiple of earnings?
Right.
And most of the offers that business owners are getting today, at least according to the Sellability Score users, is around 3 to 5 times EBITDA.
Mm-hmm.
That's about 3 to 5 times pre-tax
EBITDA
profit.
is earning before interest, taxes, and allocation.
Depreciation, exactly.
Yeah.
So
mm-hmm.
For most businesses, that equates to, pre-tax profit.
That's
so
right.
roughly
That's right.
3 to 5 times. There's only a small percentage of our users, 6%.
So see, that's a wake-up call for a lot of people, John, because most small businesses, as you know, typically put very little money on the bottom line. So I mean, they may do 15 million in sales, but they may only put 50, 60,000. If they make a profit, it may be a very small percentage, and sometimes they do that on purpose. But again, back to what you said, the offer is 3 to 5 times that, folks. That's what your business is going to be valued on, right, John?
Well, unless you do some of the things that a lot of our users have done, things like having reoccurring revenue, putting a management team in place. Those are some of the things that you could do to kind of bump your way up that scale. But the EBITDA
also doesn't reflect the strength of the balance sheet either.
No, typically not. The EBITDA line, remember, it's going to get normalized through the process of selling your company. And what that means is if you're a business owner and you could replace yourself as a manager for a salary of $100,000 a year, and
my folks know that as recasting.
Recasting. So the acquirer is going to recast your profit and loss statement to normalize it, and then come up with an established price to pay for it based on normalized earnings.
So very interesting, folks. There's a lot of divergence between what people expect to happen and what is actually happening, and very interesting that the generations have different attitudes about this. Well, not surprising at all, but very interesting. John, give us the website, please.
Sellabilityscore.com.
Sellabilityscore.com. Check that out, folks. John Warrillow's book is called Built to Sell. He and I will be right back with some more. I'm going to get John to tell us what we should be thinking about if we want to sell our businesses. Stay with us.
Cross the Mersey, 'cause this land's the place I love. And here
Insperity presents the Small Business Advocate Show with Jim Blasingame, brought to you by FedEx, CareerBuilder.com, and Palo Alto Software. This is a copyrighted production of Small Business Network, Inc., intended for the private use of our audience. Except as otherwise provided by copyright law, all other copying, redistribution, or publication without prior written consent is prohibited. All rights reserved.